Hello, it's Juliet and Stephen of Open Square, and today's question from an IT leader is, people don't turn up for our retros. So I think it's probably worth just stating what a retro is for those people who are watching who haven't heard of them before. So could you explain what a retro is?
Yeah, of course. So a retro is short for retrospective, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a look back at something to kind of see what you have learned. So most people are familiar with lessons learned ideas. Retrospectives go a little bit further, however, and we're focusing very much on what it is that we could do as a team, a group, an organisation, whatever, next time. So in a sprint, for example, at the end of a sprint in Scrum, there is a period for a retrospective where you look at how you've been operating. How have the relationships been? Have you been able to work as fast as you thought you could? Were things holding you back? An opportunity to talk about those, solve them through other activities and so on, so that you in the end get a lot faster.
Okay.
That enough?
Yeah.
For an intro, okay.
And it's not over a long period of time, so you're not looking back over like 12 months.
Well, it yes and no. Normally not. But it can be. It's an important point you raised though. So a retrospective, same as anything else. If you start a project a year ago and then 12 months later you say, so how did the project go for you? I wouldn't have remembered what I was doing the fortnight before, let alone a year ago. So how can you get value out of that? So you're right, regularity helps. But there is a depth to it. So if you do a retrospective at the end of, or you use a retrospective question at the end of every stand-up every day, obviously you want that to be very short and very specific. But it's only looking at a short period.
Okay.
If you're looking over 12 months, it's probably a bigger event collating that stuff.
So some of the reasons people might not be showing up for the retros could be they don't see any value in it, they've attended one and were bored rigid. It was a team of people, 50 people, who 90% weren't talking. It's a waste of my time, I'm too busy, all the usual things.
Yes. Yeah, I think the one I'd add to that is the organisation.
Yeah.
So an organisation that doesn't value them either, or doesn't like the idea of people wasting all their time talking about retrospectives. So that's probably the third. Individuals might be motivated, but an organisation can easily switch that off.
Yeah.
So if those are the three things, what do we do? Let's talk about each of them. So if individuals don't know why a retrospective is important.
It goes back to what we've always talked about, and the value and the intent and the why, why you should be there, what value you're going to gain out of it, what value we're all going to gain out of it. Maybe try and practice something a little bit different. Maybe they are a bit boring. People sitting around in a room talking at each other rather than with each other.
Yeah, quite. I think if it's a ceremony that's done because it says so in the book, not because you know why you're doing it, of course it's going to be quite flat. So mix it up. That's a genuinely valuable thing. And help occasionally, especially if you're a Scrum Master or a lead for one of these sessions, keep an eye on the micro improvements, the little things that change because of the conversations. Then if you get into a conversation or you're talking about why is this valuable, you've got a few stories in your pocket that you can bring out. Sticking with the Scrum Master for a second, and then we'll come back to the organisation. A Scrum Master will often pick up the feeling of something not being quite right in a team, or explicitly will see it. Rather than keep a standard start, stop, continue or generic approach to a retro, you can use that session sometimes to target those specific things. So an issue with collaboration and sharing, ask the team privately, quietly, to rate sharing on a scale of 1 to 6 or something. Collate the results, talk about it. You're more likely to solve that behavioural issue in that open, safe retrospective than you are anywhere else. You really are. So back to the organisation finally, and again this is something we've talked a bit about in terms of change. but the organisation is going to want to see the value of the work you're doing, and in many senses, rightly so. If retros are perceived as being a bit soft and a waste of energy, why aren't people just working? Then going back to the stories, show them the value of the retros, show them what happened because, or at least license yourself to do an experiment for 3 months with the retros and see what difference it has.
I think the power of those, something you talked about earlier, was those micro-learnings. If you see people are genuinely learning along the way and talking about it, being much more energised, more inclusive, more collaborative, then the organisation will feel that as well. So sometimes it's a visual thing that maybe you haven't put your finger on, but if you're encouraging it in the right way and you're bringing those people together, then there's definitely some output for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The best retros I've ever seen, people want to be there because it's not just catharsis, it's not just a moan, but it's a really valuable session that has some teeth that can improve the quality of work, the capability of a team, the individual. They're transformative if you get it right. If you're just doing it because it says so in the Scrum Guide, go back to why, and you could be really very well surprised.
Okay, so we hope that helps and gives you some tips. So the 3 things we talked about was why you're doing it, what value, and the practices and what you do. If you have any comments about it, please do let us know. Otherwise, we will catch up with you again soon. Thank you.